Hey, welcome to Access WDUN.com's continuing coverage of the 2020 Region Rundown, as Jeff and I have devoted, the last couple of weeks to taking a look at the new region alignments for high school football. Hopefully, we'll have a high school football season. The last couple of times we've started with Region 7A with Coach Heath Webb, Region 6A, or I say 6A, but Class 6A. With Coach Brian Appling from Buford, and now we move down to Class 5A and Region 8 5A with Jackson County head coach Rich McWhorter. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Well, Coach, it's good to have you on. I tell you, Coach, you're a legend, and it's great to have you on to talk some football. And hopefully we'll, like Bo said, hopefully we'll get to have a season.
Yeah, this has been something that's been really, trying to, keeping up with your kids. I was just on the phone with one of our players a few minutes ago, trying to keep up to date with what they're doing and that sort of thing. And like I said, the timetable when we get back, who knows?
Well, Coach, what have you been doing since the shutdown? The COVID-19 shutdown has closed all the schools and shut down all spring sports.
Well, I've been, keeping in touch with my coaches, talking about different things and so forth. And I know all my coaches have been in touch with their position group players, and I've been going down the roster and contacting kids and talking to them about, staying on your grades, keeping up with everything, getting outside, get some running in and so forth. And so that's been, that's really been all we can do right now.
Well, Coach, last season you guys were in Class 3A with some local rivalries like East Jackson and Jefferson. This year, y'all made the really a major jumping two classifications up into Class 5A. What was the thought process from the school standpoint, and it's not just football you have to consider, when you look at that. So what was the thought process for the Panthers moving up two classifications?
Classification, I think, was going to happen anyway, going from 3 to 4, simply because of our enrollment has gotten bigger. The movement from 4 to 5 was really, we felt like it was better for our students and our programs for us to go up to 5. We thought, and we were told, you may be there again in 2 years anyway, because we expect to just keep growing over here. But we felt like the region that we would have been in 4 compared to the one we're in 5 was just better for us, more as far as being able to compete at the region level. To be honest with you, we're not concerned that much right now about the state level in most sports, but we are concerned about it, the region competition right now.
Well, we're talking football with this. It's an interesting mix of teams. You got, Appalachia moving down from 6A, Clarke Central staying. Yeah, Clarke Central, Johnson, Loganville, Walnut Grove were all here last year. Appalachia's moved down. Greenbrier has moved down. I believe Eastside moved up, and then you guys moved up. So this kind of an interesting mix of teams. Competition-wise, it looks pretty favorable for the Panthers, not just in football, but in most sports. In football, Clarke Central is probably, I would say, the team to beat, but it seems wide open, really, after that for the playoffs.
Well, it does, and that's what we were hoping for getting into this region, that we would have a competitive chance each and every week, and we lined up to play. And also, with football, sports such as football, basketball, those sports, we've all been trying to take the next step and become a little bit more competitive in our regions. And we're hoping this region right here will help us do that. By no means is anybody in that region going to be an easy win for us, but yet, like I said, Clarke Central is the team, obviously the team to beat, the team that has the most tradition probably in that region. But again, we feel like it's going to be more competitive up and down the region for us.
Well, Coach, in your first season at Jackson County, you moved up from from South Georgia and Charleston County, and you came up and took over Jackson County. What, in your first season, talk about your first season and how you felt it went establishing your program.
Gotten a few more wins out of it. We lost 3 games by 7 or less points, and was able to win 3 games. We felt like that that the way we've done things in the past in my programs are different than the way they've been done up here, and the thing that we really tried to push over to the kids is try to raise your level of toughness and competitiveness, and that's what we really pushed for. And some kids, a lot of the kids were accepting of that, and a lot of the kids gave us a great effort. And I just wish we could have gotten a couple more wins for them, especially the senior class. We only had 8 seniors this year. I understand that group, in the junior, kids went other directions and so forth. And 8 was what we had left. It was a great group of kids, and the group of kids really bought. I think the seniors bought in quicker than anybody else in the program, so they were really hungry. I hope that what we have coming back is going to be equally as hungry and wanting to get better and take that next step.
Speaking of the next step, like you said, you lost several close games last year, and that was a tough region when you had Jefferson and Franklin County and Morgan and Hart and some good football tradition that had been tough for Jackson County to really break through. How do you see this region? We talked about Clarke Central. Just some interesting tidbits. 6 of the 8 schools ended up with losing records last year. Now, I know that's last year. That doesn't mean a lot for this year, but there's not a lot of football tradition other than Clarke Central when you look at some of the teams in this region. You guys continue to get a little bit better. What teams do you see are going to be the teams that you feel like you maybe going to have to beat if you want to make a playoff run?
Well, I feel like what we do is on region play is to try to get some momentum getting into region play. I've always had the mindset is let's just win 1 game a week and take care of the week that we have in front of us, and let's try to win Monday, then Tuesday, and so forth. And I don't have the schedule in front of me, so I don't really have off the top of my mind who comes in what order. But I know that we just have to be prepared for each and every Friday night, and I got. We got to win the day that we're in, get better that day. Hopefully, try to win a week.
Well, Coach, Jeff talking about the region and everything, and you're talking about preparation for the upcoming season. I know with the COVID-19, the coronavirus, all this stuff going on right now. Some say it may be after the dead week that you guys get to go back. Some say maybe sooner. The hope is that it will be sooner that you guys can come back, but probably not. But if you guys do come back, say after the dead week, which is like July 6th, do you feel that that's enough time for you guys to prepare for game 1?
I feel it is. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get the kids back in condition. We're going to have to get them strong in the weight room. My past experience tells me, you lift weights to have a physical advantage, but you have to lift weights to prevent injuries. And I know that a lot of our kids haven't had access to any strength training equipment or anything like that. So we have to get them in the weight room as quickly as we can. We've got to get their shoulders strong, their neck strong, and really, get them going, get their legs going again. The X's and O's, I'm not as concerned about because I think we laid a foundation a year ago of what we want to do. There is some things we want to do different and some changes we want to make, but still, I'm not as worried about the X's and O's as I am the safety and the strength conditioning of our players right now.
Is that the biggest concern that you have going into the season? Like you said, just trying to get back. What kind of a plan or a schedule would it be for your program and most programs if you come back after dead week? How's that going to look? Is you going to just have to take a week of conditioning, or are you going to be able to jump into what you normally would be doing?
I've seen a model that was sent out and around of what might be proposed is the first 2 weeks coming in July 6th. The first 2 weeks will be basically an acclimation period where you would simply strength training and on the field running, and you can do some installment then. But then the next 2 weeks would be helmet, shoulder pads, and so forth. And then you'd be back where you were as far as the start of your August 1, full pads and so forth and things like that, and getting ready for your scrimmages. I know this year, being that we didn't have spring football, we can add another scrimmage to the fall. So we've taken our spring scrimmage with Winder Barra, and we've moving that to have a second fall scrimmage. Them and then also Cherokee Bluff for our second scrimmage. But again, it goes back to where we're all in the same boat. We're all going to be rusty. We may be a little sloppy early in the year, which you are anyway, really. And throughout the year, we'll probably be, especially the first few weeks, you're going to still be installing. So it's going to be really the same for everybody. So I'm not that concerned about it. The only thing I'm concerned about is the health and the safety of our football players, getting them back in the weight room to where we're not going to have the shoulder problems or the stingers, maybe knee problems, things such as that. Things that strength training really helps you with.
I got you. Well, Coach, let's talk about your roster for a little bit. I don't have any stats from last year, but we do know that what you got coming back is Jake Stimcombe at quarterback was the main guy, but looks like you can have a battle there perhaps with rising junior Connor Bijan, I think is how you pronounce it. Yeah. Bo Reeves is back as your top wide receiver. Andrew King, a first-team defensive lineman. You got another receiver and Aiden Griswold. Trey Ransom, running back, who was having a good year until he got hurt, I believe, at the end of the season. And you got 4 guys coming back on the offensive line. So you look pretty solid. With some of your returning players. How do you feel about your group as a whole getting to this season?
Last year, we had an opportunity to play an awful lot of kids. If you looked at the different starting lineups we had several. And again, just looking at my roster right here, we had a lot of kids who had really quality playing time at the JV level, but then on Friday nights contributed. And then later in the year, I actually started on Friday nights. A lot of the kids, our junior class for next year, a lot of kids right there, Bailey Ham, JT Stinscombe, or JT Soulsby. Those guys had a lot of playing time, along with Markel Oliver, who's a sophomore, who could be an outstanding wide receiver for us. All 5 of our offensive linemen are back. I know you mentioned 4 of them. We had no graduation in the offensive line group. So we really believe that we're going to have to get better in the secondary. We're going to get better at wide receiver and develop a little bit of depth and so forth. But again, we had a lot of kids get a lot of playing time a year ago.
Well, what do you see as the biggest, I don't want to say a concern. It was a very tough region. A lot of good defensive ball teams in the old 8-3A. You guys only averaged 11.5 points a game. And you gave up 24, but considering some of the offenses that were in that region, that's really not bad. What is it going to be? Scoring a few more points, giving up a few less, or combination of both?
Combination of both. No question. We have to score more points. We've got to get better on the line of scrimmage. First of all, I felt like last year we weren't very good football team on the line of scrimmage, and we have to get better and we're going to work very hard to get better on the line of scrimmage to where we can run the ball when we need to and we want to, and still work hard in the passing game and get better there. But we have a lot of kids, like I said, who we didn't list as starters, but there won't be many kids who are going to start this year that didn't play a lot last year already. So we're looking forward to that. Defensively, I felt like the defense last year was good enough to win at least 6 to 7 ball games. It's just offense wasn't very good, and we've got to get better on that side of the ball, no question.
Well, Coach, we opened the show talking about the brand new region, and we've hinted at it a couple times when we were talking earlier. But you look down at the region, do you feel the competition is more on a level playing field, or do you feel like that there is a team that is head and shoulders above the rest?
Well, I think Clarke Central is a team that you have to pencil in as the team to beat. But, again, I think for the rest of the teams after Clarke Central, I think you're going to look at everybody's right there together. And it's going to be very interesting. I think you're going to see a region play to where, every week the standing's going to be jumbled. It's going to be moved around, and there's a lot of opportunities out there, I think, for some success. And again, you got to get some momentum going. You got to get on a roll and get some confidence. And that's the one thing I felt like Jackson County football has lacked is confidence. And I've really tried to sell them on the idea that, we're going to do the things that we need to do to expect to win. And that starts off with hard work and strength training and discipline and so forth. And we made strides last year, even though the scoreboard and the win-loss record didn't really show it. I think we made some strides last year. I think our kids understand what we expect. Made a couple of coaching changes this year, and I think it's going to help. And I think we're going to be a lot better come this next year.
All right, Coach. Well, we appreciate you taking the time out with us today. Sorry about the network troubles earlier today, but hey, it's what we get, right? We're social distancing.
That's right. That's
Well,
right.
good luck this season, and we'll be talking to you hopefully very, very soon. Get an interview with Coach Rich McWhorter from Jackson County, Jeff, and talking about a brand new region for them, but not only a brand new region, but a new classification. As like he said, they were going to go up a classification anyway, but they decided to go up 2 classifications to Class 5A. How do you think that's going to work out for them?
Hey, go big or go home, I say. It's I honestly, when you look at this region, I think this is a region that plays for them. We didn't really get into it about what they left behind necessarily in 8-4A, but I mean, you're looking at Cedar Shoals, Chesadee, East Hall, Flowery Branch, Jefferson, Madison County, and North Oconee. With 2 or 3 teams in there, I think that was competitive. But I wonder a little bit at this also. You heard Coach mention that, I guess the projections are they'll probably move up to 5A eventually at some point. Might as well go now. And you can kind of get out from under that shadow of Jefferson. They've kind of been in the same region with Jefferson for years. And quite frankly, it's just been hard for them to compete other than, say, wrestling and a couple other sports. So I think this is going to play for Jackson County. I also think it's going to play for Johnson that's in this region. We were just talking to the Jackson County coach, but, Johnson has really been making strides the last couple of years. I think this is a region that plays for them. 6 of the 8 teams, Bo, had losing records last year. Okay, there's very little football tradition in this region other than Clarke Central. Right. Okay, for instance, Eastside was the only other team. Clarke Central won 8 Region 8 5A last year, knocking off Buford somehow in the finale, in the region finale. Eastside was 7-4, but they lost in the first round of the playoffs, and I believe that they came from Eastside. They came from 4A, so they lost in the first round. Greenbrier 2-9, lost in the first round. They've never been past the first round. Jackson County, Johnson, Loganville, first round loss in the playoffs. They haven't made it past the second round since 1991. Walnut Grove was 0-10 last year. They scored the fewest points in Class 5A, only 58 points scored. Wow. I mean, so when you heard Coach say that he felt like that there was an opportunity here, I think there's an opportunity here. Can you go ahead and say they're certainly in the playoffs? No, I don't think you can say that because however, they have been in the playoffs for the last 6 years.
Well, you were asking me who the region champ was before, we went on today. And
I thought I was going to stump you on that.
You didn't stump me on that because Buford was in the region last year. So Buford was the pick for everybody's region champion. Duh, that's what happens. But Clarke Central pulled the upset, won the region, and what did they do? Go out in the first round or second round?
No. They made it to the quarterfinals.
And
that's 2 straight years. Now, look, that's interesting for Clarke. Second straight year in the quarterfinals. That's the first time they've done that as a program since 96 and 97. Yet, with all the tradition that they have, of course, they played for the title in 2009. So, Clarke Central is still Clarke Central. I don't think they're the Clarke Central of the 80s, early 90s, but they're still Clarke Central.
Well, also out of that region, Cedar Shoals, they actually moved down to Class 4A. So,
they did.
That will be interesting for them.
That's 2 playoff teams gone out of that region that were, had winning records.
So, if you have to look at the region favorite, obviously it's going to be Clarke Central. They'll be the region favorite to win it.
I think that's a given. Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to pick against Clarke Central. Does that mean they're going to win it? I don't know. Let's look at them real quick. They lost Isaac Ward, their quarterback, 2,500 yards, 33 touchdowns. They lost their top running back, O'Brien Barnett, 1,500 yards, 17 touchdowns. Their top rusher returning is probably projected to be their quarterback as well, Will Richardson. He's going to be a junior. He only had 248 yards rushing. He was also their top quarterback. He was 6 of 9 for 124 yards and 2 TDs on the season. But they do return their top receiver, Jarius Mack, 69 receptions, 1,200 yards. So, but, they lost a ton of offensive production on a team that scored over 30 points a game, and defensively they gave up 27. So I think, when you look at the region as a whole, I still think they're going to be the team to beat. But are they going to be as good as they have been the last couple of years? I don't know, because they're going to be breaking in a new quarterback, a new running back, how many other pieces that we don't know of, offensive line, defensive line, some of the things that it's hard to get a read on at this point in the season. The other team that had a winning record, Bo, was the Eastside. Of course, they were in Region 4-4A. They lost in the first round. They do return their top 4 rushers, 1,200 yards and 18 touchdowns combined. They did graduate their quarterback that threw for 1,800 yards. Their top returning quarterback that got any actions, a guy named Jalen Woods, a senior, he was 3 for 7 for 20 yards on the season.
Okay.
So he's an unknown commodity, They're defensively, though, I think is kind of where they may be ahead of most other people. They returned their top 4 tacklers, all the linebackers. That's almost 250 tackles and 33 tackles for loss returning. And they created 24 takeaways on defense last year. And they 6 straight seasons of 7 or more wins. So there's 2 teams, right there. After that, what you're looking at is Appalachia 3-7, Greenbrier 2-9, Jackson County 3-7, Johnson was 4-6, Loganville 3-8, Walnut Grove 0-10. I think it's wide open. It is wide open.
So if you go back to Eastside and you look at their 2018, they were 12-1. So, you said 6 straight seasons, 7 wins or more. So perhaps Eastside will be that team that gives Clarke Central a run for the top spot.
Well, they could be, but, they did that in the last couple of years with balance, and they graduated their quarterback. And, they're going to turn it over to a guy that's, he only had 7 attempts last year for 20 yards. Now, he may be just as good, but he's a rising senior. How much playing time has he really got in the last couple of years? So that was probably their balance on offense. So, I don't know that they're a given commodity. Appalachia, they moved down from 6A in that tough region with Lanier and Winder Barrow and Decula.
But does that help
they
them?
were 3 I think it does. I think this is a region where they're going to find a little more competition than a little more balance and more to their level. They only averaged 250 yards a game on offense, and they graduated their top 3 rushers and their quarterback and their top 2 wide receivers. So, they're going to be rebuilding a little bit. If you look at Greenbrier, which is out of Augusta, now that's going to be a haul for Johnson and Jackson County. They were 4th in Region 3 6A. They lost in the first round, and their entire region was swept in the first round. So I don't think that was a great football region. They only averaged 197 yards a game on offense, and they've only made 6 playoff appearances in their entire program history. They only averaged 9 points a game, and they gave up 33 on defense. And they only returned 87 passing yards from quarterbacks last year. So again, there's a lot of all these teams seem to be kind of in the same boat. We talked Jackson County, Johnson. I think Johnson's a team to watch. 4-6, made a big step up last year under Stan Luttrell. Now they are losing the quarterback. So we'll have to see. But they made strides defensively and offensively. And we talked to the new coach, Coach Harrell, who's already watched every game film that they have for the last couple of years. I like the vibe that we got from Coach Harrell.
And I do believe that Coach Wagner and the administration there did make a great hire because we've talked about this before about Coach Luttrell. We felt like Coach Luttrell was the guy that was going to get Johnson back, to that level that I guess they once were. And he made strides last year with that, with his weight program, with his, intensity, with his coaching, with his teaching. Now, with Coach Harrell, I think he's going to bring the same thing into Oakwood, and continue on that 1 year of foundation that Coach Luttrell built.
Well, and he has a history of doing this. He did that where he was before, where he took a mediocre program and within 2 years built it up. I think we talked about what he learned in his first coaching stint was that, you have coaches and sometimes you have to make some tough decisions and bring in the people to do what you're wanting to do. He's done that. He understands how to make the right decisions to get to where he wants to go. I really think that's going to be a great hire. I really like Johnson in this region. I like Jackson County in this region. The other 2 teams are Loganville. They were 3-8. They did get out of the playoffs in 5A, but they lost in the first round.
So here's what you're saying. You're picking at this moment for Region 8 5A, Clarke Central, East Side, Jackson, and Johnson as your top 4.
I don't know that I said that. But
okay.
I will
that's
say
what you were saying.
I'm not gonna.
I like, it's like okay.
What I like is I think that there's competitive balance in this region, which plays well for Jackson County, in a region the last few years that competitively they just. You had the Morgan counties and the Hart counties and the Franklins and the Jeffersons and the Hart. That's a tough region. Just to get to the 4 spot was tough. Okay. Brutal. So I think this is a region that's more to their liking as far as a competitive balance. Same for Johnson. Johnson was in this region last year with Clarke Central and Cedar and Buford.
Well, so go on the record then.
On
the record, Jeff.
On the record. I think you got to throw Loganville in there. Because, as far as the top 5, they do return a quarterback. 1,500 yards, 11 TDs, only 5 interceptions. He ran for 200. They also returned their top rusher, 600 yards and 6 TDs. But they lost their top 2 wide receivers. They're losing their top 2 tacklers on defense. That's 200 tackles combined, by the way.
So what you're telling me, nobody is going to ask in the 2020 football season, where's Loganville?
Not this year. Well, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? In Walnut Grove, 0-10 last year, and again scored the fewest points in all of Class 5A, and they gave up 42 points a game.
Let's just face it here. They're on the struggle bus for a long time.
They are, but again, remember they beat Johnson a couple years ago.
True.
And Johnson, they took Johnson down to the wire this past season, even though they were 0-10. So when I say I like Johnson and I like Jackson County, both of them are going to have to show some consistency in being able to, say, beat a team that you feel like they should beat. We thought last year that was a team they should have beaten Walnut Grove. It was a lot closer than probably it should have been. They won the game, but you've got to start winning games in a decisive manner that you're supposed to win. If Jackson County and Johnson are able to do that with some of the teams in this region, when you look at Greenbrier and you look at Walnut Grove, I feel like those are two games they should win. If you can win those two games, that puts you easily in the playoff conversation. It's just hard to say. Take two teams that, Johnson hasn't made the playoffs since 2004. So you're asking me to say, yeah, they're a lot from the playoffs. It's just hard to do.
Go on the record
now. It's hard to do, Bo. I would love to do that for all the Knights fans out there. But again, I like where the program is going. Rich McWhorter, who we just talked to, he's in the top 25 or 30 in all-time wins in Georgia. For all the work he did in Charlton County, the man knows how to build a program and build a consistent winner. And I think, given time in Jackson County, I think it's doable. Certainly in this region, when you look at the makeup, then we have one real traditional football team in this entire region.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see, Jeff.
But I do think both of them are. I will go on the record and say Jackson County and Johnson will be in the playoff race.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap it up with that, as Jeff has made a slightly bold statement there.
A bold statement. We'll
on the record.
That's a bold statement, Cotton. We'll see if it works.
All right, Jeff. Hey, enjoying it as usual. As next region, we'll look at the great region 8-4A.
No, 7-4. No,
8-4.
That is 8. Boy, you got me on that.
The same thing. It is now 8.
Yeah, and that's an intriguing region, Bo.
Yes, it is.
How about just for this cliffhanger to leave them with this, you got Flowery Branch and Jefferson, Madison County, and North Oconee all in that. That's going to be a good region. Now, not to take anything away, but you got Cedar that's dropping down from 5A, and they were in the playoffs last year, and Chestatee with Christian Charles. East Hall, second year.
Air Raid.
I'm going to tell you, that region has some possibilities.
Will be interesting as well. So that'll be our next region rundown.
Who isn't waiting for Jefferson Flowery Branch though?
Oh, we all are. I mean,
Well, Ben Hall, the former coach of Jefferson, now at Flowery Branch. Yeah, you better.
Most definitely. All right, so next time, we'll take a look at Region 8-4A. Don't forget all the socials at HeartJJ22. For Jeff Rowe, I'm at Thebo Wilson. Also, check us out at WDUN Sports and at Friday Game Night. Also on social media, Facebook and Instagram. Keyword search, access WDUN Sports. For Jeff, I'm Bo. Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone.